when the world has got you down. And
Alzheimer's sucks. It's an equal opportunity disease that chips away at everything we hold dear. And to date, there's no cure. So until there is, we continue to fight with the most powerful tool in our arsenal, love. This is Love Conquers Alls, a real and really positive podcast that takes a deep dive into everything Alzheimer's, the good, the bad, and everything in between. And now, here are your hosts, Susie Singer-Carter and me, Don Priest.
Hello, everybody. I'm Susie Singer-Carter.
And I'm Don Priest, and this is Love Conquers Alls. Hello, Susan.
Good morning, Donald. How are you doing?
A bit sleepy.
A bit sleepy, yeah.
Last night was a long, or should I say this morning was a long night. It was at the edit desk
corral.
till 7 a.m. till 7 a.m. this morning. Got in a lovely 2.5 hours of sleep, and now I'm raring to go.
That's right. That's enough for you. That's enough.
It's enough.
It's gluttonous after that.
It's more than you actually let me sleep. Usually,
I know. I'm small but mighty. So
yes. A taskmaster, a tiny taskmaster, if you will.
That's me.
So,
That's me. Well,
so what's happening?
Well, we're talking about editing No Country for Old People, and we really feel good. This is why we were up so late last night, because we feel like we finally got a cut. That is, we're hoping the cut. Now we bear our babies. We present our babies to our most dearest trusted colleagues.
Few, yeah.
And then they will rip it apart. And we'll have to go
and then we'll start over. Damn the last 11 months of editing. Let's start over.
Yeah. So really, I think all the polishing is so that we don't embarrass ourselves in front of our colleagues, right? Yeah. Because they're going to be the most. They're going to scrutinize us the most, which is good because we do the same to them. So it's fair play. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so everyone needs it, but we're not looking forward to it. So, but it
not
has
in the
to,
least bit.
No. But we've gotten this far, folks, and it's going to be powerful, and we'll definitely, as always, keep you posted. And what else, Donna? Surprise! We're still raising money. What?
We are. I mean, it's it's a never-ending saga, but we're still looking for finishing funds, which are the things that we need to finish, hence the name Finishing Funds. We still have, let's see how many things we have. We have color, our final color. We have audio mixing. We have a composer who's working on music even as we speak.
To pull your heartstrings.
Yes, we have a whole legal team that has to clear each and every moment of the 3 hours and 11 minutes. And they pull our pocket strings, absolutely. All things that cost a lot of money. We've done very well. Spearheaded by Susie, we've raised got it to this point. We need that push over the line. So if anyone, has a spare change,
cares
or
about getting
a
older,
lot of spare change,
cares about getting older in your future,
yes.
and fixing our terrible, sad nursing home long-term care system, and get everybody either in a really good long-term care facility that is actually doing what it's supposed to do, or aging beautifully at home, which really is a great segue into our guest today, right?
It does.
Yeah,
absolutely. It does lead exactly because they are champions,
cheerleaders
in that area.
Like
more than cheerleaders,
mascots.
They're leaders. They're leaders. They're more than mascots. Except I do like the heads that they wear. Those funny heads. Those are really fun. But
Don, that's their...
no, they're amazing people. And I think perhaps shall I tell our audience who they are, and then we can talk to them?
Helpful.
Okay, why don't I do that? Cindy Hardin-Weiss is a physical therapist and has spent the majority of her career in home healthcare. Her passion is to assist people in maintaining their independence, especially when it comes to making a difference in their ability to remain in their homes. Christina Hardin-Weiss is a speech-language dysphagia therapist. She spent most of her career treating patients in skilled nursing facilities. She also enjoys working with individuals who have dementia and their families, as well as those who have difficulty eating, chewing, swallowing due to illness or disease. Together, they are founders of Adaptive Equipment and Caregiving Corner, out of which they produce educational and instructional videos and home medical equipment product reviews for professional caregivers, families caring for a loved one, and older adults who want to age in place. Their mission is to help you maintain your dignity and independence while remaining safely in the comfort and familiarity of your home. It is a noble cause indeed, and we cannot wait to hear more, so let's say hello to Cindy and Christina Hardin-Weiss. Hello, Cindy and Christina.
Hello.
Hi,
How
ladies.
are you guys?
Hello. Well,
Excellent, thank you.
You know we are great and tired at the same time. But we
That's
are
what I
great.
heard.
We're feeling really good. Yeah. But this is all about you guys today, and I have been, literally. Quietly seeing you when in all your shenanigans, and and I say that with respect, because I love I love what you guys are doing, and I love the kinds of resource that you've become, and the way that you deliver it is just delightful and authentic, and I'm not surprised about some offline stuff that we just talked about, because I knew that would be you. I knew that you guys are authentic and the real deal, because I'm telling you, the caregiving community, and it's a huge community, but there's also 53 million caregivers and growing, and where there's that many numbers there, you need to. There's a lot of money to be made, and people in that position, when you're a caregiver and you're in the throes of it, you're very vulnerable, you're tired, and you really don't know where to turn, and you really need to find a resource that you can trust. And honestly, listeners, you can trust these ladies. I'm telling you.
Thank you.
I really, really endorse them so much, and that is my I would say that's my secret sauce. That's my secret power, is sussing out authenticity, and that's you guys.
Thank you,
We
Susie.
appreciate
That's probably one of the best compliments we ever receive, is to be called authentic and genuine. It really means so much to us, because that's really what we want to be. We want to be that trusted resource, and if people see us as authentic and genuine, then bonus for us.
That's right. That's exactly right.
Oh yeah, I mean. Honestly, I am so excited to talk to you, because you're everything that I wish I knew and had when I was going through my journey with my mom, and who had Alzheimer's for 16 years, and every stage of it, and especially the last trek is very challenging. And boy, if I knew you guys like 2 years ago, I would have been all over you. You would have been sick of me, because I'm telling you, I'm looking at your credits and everything that you've been doing. It's SLP. Where were you? I needed you.
Yeah. We hear that quite a bit.
Yeah.
We hear that quite a bit, and
Oh,
that's
my
like a
God.
dagger to the heart, because it's you go to school because you want to help people, right? And so it's just. And that never changes throughout your career. And so when we started doing this, and getting out there more, and seeing more people and caregivers and individuals that were wanting to age safely in place, we hear that all the time. If I would have only known, it's just, and we're trying.
Yeah.
We're trying.
You're more than trying. You're doing.
Thank you.
And I want to hear your background, but I just want to say that if whoever's listening, all of the things that Cindy and Christina bring to the table, all of their gifts and knowledge and expertise and experience is so needed, because I never knew what dysphagia was. I didn't know dysphagia. I didn't know what aspiration was. I didn't know literally what MPO was. I mean, all these things are things that suddenly, when someone your loved one is has turned a corner and is getting, you're playing whack-a-mole for one thing, and there's acuities everywhere, and you don't know what to address, and all you can do is believe the people that are in charge. And often more than often, which is why we're doing our documentary, they don't have your best interests
Right.
in,
Correct.
right? They
Right.
just don't.
That's right.
Yeah.
So,
That's right.
and so you really need to find a source that you can trust, because everybody has a different opinion and everybody's motivations are different. So thank you
Right.
so much for
It
being
is.
a resource out there and being like true blue.
Yeah.
And
Our pleasure.
Yeah, it is our pleasure.
I'm honored.
Yeah, it is our pleasure.
Thank you. So, all right. So let's start with Christina. Tell us how you got involved, what you do, what your expertise is, and why you stay in this crazy industry.
Yeah. So I'm a speech therapist. Most of my career has been spent in long-term care, so I know exactly what you're talking about, Susie. I loved working in long-term care. I worked, like Cindy, I worked for a short stint in home health, but the team, especially in therapy and nursing together, always felt like such a team, and we always benefit. It was everything that we would do would be to benefit our clients or our patients. And I enjoyed, especially working with the memory care, the residents on memory care, the community members in memory care. I learned something new every day, and people are communicative human beings. We are communicative. We like to communicate. Even whether you're an introvert or an extrovert, you still have something to say and you want to be validated. And that makes no difference regardless of what stage you're at if you're living with dementia. I had patients that, could no longer communicate. But that didn't mean we couldn't sit down with a book, we couldn't sit down with some pictures, or we couldn't sit down with some kind of something, some kind of food or some kind of magazine, and go through that together and point and look at and acknowledge. Even if they have one word, if they perseverate on one word, it means something. The tone, the way they say it means something. And so it was truly my pleasure to be able to work with the clients and stuff, with the patients and stuff. And then with dysphagia, that one is my second favorite. And usually when you're a person living with dementia, swallowing troubles or dysphagia becomes a major issue near the end. And finding out what somebody enjoys eating so that they can still get the pleasure of eating. And sometimes tastes change as we progress, as we get older, and as we progress through dementia. And trying to find out what was that one special thing that they loved so that we could get the most calories in them and they would have the best quality of life. That to me was a challenge, but man, was it fun when we would figure that out. Figuring out that they liked this particular food with that particular food. Maybe I wouldn't have chose it, but it's something that, it's something that they liked. And guess what? I want you to eat it then. If that's going to keep weight on you, if you're going to be able to swallow it safely, let's do it. Let's do it. If your mom wants to eat with her fingers out of a bowl, who cares? If she's not using silverware,
Right.
is she getting nutrition in her? And you know what? She used to be a really good cook, and that's how she ate. She never sat down with the family. She just ate out of the pot whenever she was cooking. Who cares? She's getting
Right.
food in her mouth, So
Right.
yeah,
Is she happy? Is she
Yes,
happy?
that's right.
Yeah.
Absolutely,
That's exactly right.
absolutely.
Oh my God, everything you're saying, Christina, it resonates. I could sit down and talk to you for 2 hours because my whole thing with my mom, they put her on NPO for no reason and she could swallow, and they wouldn't they wouldn't do it because they didn't want to, assign the
liability,
the help to do it. Yeah. And so I went in there every day, and they'd only let me give her liquids on a sponge, on the oral
The
sponges,
toothets,
and she
yeah.
would suck them dry. She would suck them dry because she was so thirsty, and I had to pull stuff out of her mouth every day.
Yeah.
And it was torture because she wanted to eat.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And they put her on a
Absolutely.
G tube in the hospital, and it's a whole other thing. But
Yeah.
honestly, and when you talked about communication, oh my God, for sure. I mean, I had one of the chaplains came in and told me, my mom, you don't have to worry about your mom. She has holes in her brain, and she doesn't, she's not really there, or she's demented. And I said, are you kidding me? Like, she just told me she loved me, full. we talk I talk nonstop. I talk enough for both of us. She'd laugh and nod the entire time. You know, she was hearing everything I was saying and communicating like you do with a baby that doesn't talk. You communicate with them. My mom, not a baby, had you know, a lot of her cognitive was there. She just couldn't speak it.
Yep. Right. Yep.
And so you're so right. There's so much education that needs to be had about that stage of, well, all stages of progressive diseases.
Yeah.
So thank you for being a champion for people without voices, because you know there's so much ableism in our healthcare system because people don't understand.
Yeah.
So that takes us to Cindy.
Yes.
Tell us about you.
Well, I'm a physical therapist, and I have been mainly in home health for the duration of my career, which is about 30 years now, and love the home health setting. I love being in other people's spaces. It's different, not faces, but spaces. It's different.
Right.
It's different. You know, when you're in their home and it's kind of their territory, and you get to spend a little bit more time with them and really understand and learn about them. And then really working with them as far as helping them figure out, you know, hey, if I want to stay here, what do I need to do to try to do that? Along with them and their caregivers, and really trying to educate, especially the caregivers, on, you know, how am I going to handle this now? Because I'm a caregiver, and a lot of people don't even realize that is happening, or that they are truly a caregiver. And you know, the longevity of that can be at risk if the caregiver's not taking care of themselves, both, you know, physically, emotionally, the whole 9 yards. So that's that education of trying to work with both the loved one and the caregiver. You know, what needs to be done, what are some things that can make things more efficient and safe for both parties. You know, whether it's using verbal cues, maybe you need verbal cues now, or tactile cues to help your loved one get through that process of, maybe it's just sitting to standing. And there's so many times that I've treated individuals, I'll go into a house and the clients and the family's frustrated, and they're like, you know, we have to fully lift mom out of the chair now, she just can't do it. And I'll go over and I'll talk to mom, and we'll go through some visual cues or tactile cues, and mom can do it. But it's just that teaching and that education of allowing the caregiver to be okay with letting their loved one do as much as they can, because it's going to be a matter of saving their dignity, their independence, as well as saving the caregiver, you know, as far as what they're doing physically.
I love that. That's so, you know, that reminds me of what we interviewed several SLPs in our documentary. I wish I would have known that you were an SLP before, because I love what you're saying. But you know, one of the, I don't know if you know Ionessa Humboldt, but she's amazing, and she's a professor as well. And she said, you know, if you don't swallow, then you forget, you're not going to be able to remember how to swallow. You're going to lose that skill. Right. So it's like if you hurt your leg, you have to walk so that you can rehabilitate your leg. Otherwise, you'll end up never walking. Right. So it's the same thing. If you don't exercise those muscles, you know, you will lose it. And especially people with Alzheimer's and dementia, you know, you have to keep it consistent, right? And with the documentary, I've been doing a lot of posts and talking about, you know, and just journey that really opened my eyes. My mother, you know, suffered, and I was there every day. And some of the responses that are very painful will be from on social media will be, well, why did you leave your mom there? Why did you let her suffer for 6 months? Well, you know, I would have taken my mom home. I would have done this. I took care of my mom for 7 years at home, and you know, and all these things without understanding the acuity and at some point I'm wondering, you know, do you help with those assessments in terms of family members? I mean, we all want to keep our family member at home. Yeah. Oftentimes, accessibility doesn't work, you know, in terms of just the layout of the home, financially. Right. And then, you know, the level of their acuity, right? So my mother, ended up with a stage 4 wound that wasn't being attended to. If I had, I was in between a rock and a hard place because
Right.
I had to go every day and advocate for her.
Yep.
Right.
But if I took her home, it would have been worse.
Yes.
Right.
Because that, right?
Yeah.
So
And
there's
that-
a point where we're we're stuck, right?
Yeah.
Right.
That's what we always tell our caregivers. First of all, it's not an easy job. It's hard on you physically, it's hard on you mentally, it's hard on you financially, and so we try to and it's hard on your relationship with your loved one as a caregiver, and so not everybody is able to, for whatever reason, to keep their loved one at home. And if you think of it this way, if you take your loved one to a healthcare facility, to a long-term care facility, and let the professionals who do that on a daily basis, that opens you up to be able to be their advocate. So now you can go in every day and you can advocate for them. You could go there every day for lunch and have lunch with them. You can maintain that mother-daughter relationship, that that familial relationship that you have with them. Whereas if you're caregiving at home, it really, it's really sets you up to kind of take those roles get reversed, and it just kind of takes that love out of it and burnout. And now that adds guilt to you because, this is my mom, this is my dad, this is my grandparents. I feel bad for feeling this way. Well, guess what? You're human. It happens. So if you shouldn't feel bad if you have to take your loved one to a facility to provide them with the skilled care that they need, which will allow you to provide them with the loving care that they still need and that you need from your parent or from your loved one.
And that they can't
And it's
get
better
from
for their
other people.
dignity also. Yeah,
That's
isn't
exactly
it better for their dignity also, as because they don't necessarily want their daughter or son doing some of the things that need to be done.
Absolutely.
So, it puts them in an and so, people have to say, oh, well, you don't want a stranger doing that. Well, in some cases you do.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah,
And
absolutely.
also, and also people say, well, they raised you and they did, and it's like, I've raised 2 daughters. I understand what that means.
Yeah.
But
Right.
when my daughter needed to be diapered and carried from chair to chair, she weighed 20 pounds.
Right.
And so I'm strong and mighty, but come on, let's
Yeah.
face it, it's not easy. And if you don't have a huge, group of family, if you don't have a
Right.
lot of family members, like I didn't have a brother that was involved, so then it's really on you
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
to do all of it. And then of course, which goes back to what we're talking about in our film, is that our insurances, and our federal insurance, Medicare and Medicaid they don't cover home care.
No.
Right.
Right. Only under certain circumstances and for very limited amounts of time.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
So-
And that's interesting
Yeah.
that you say that, because we have so many people that get confused about Medicare, and they hear this, oh, well, you'll get skilled care when you go home from the hospital. Well, skilled care is me as a PT, is her as an ST, is a nursing visit. It is not 24 hours a day skilled care.
Yeah.
And it's very confusing
That's
for
right.
people, and it's very misleading because it is far and few between as far as the visits go. You know?
Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
unfortunate. It's very unfortunate.
Yeah,
It
and
is unfortunate. We need, and go on, I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, and unfortunately, you get, let's say you're in, your loved one's in the hospital, they're in a nursing home, and you get the opportunity to bring them back home. That level of skilled care they're getting in that facility, now that falls on your shoulders.
Right.
And if you don't know how to do that because you've not been trained,
Right.
then there's another situation that compounds the whole caregiver situation, the whole dynamic. So,
Right.
yeah.
Oh.
You put them in danger. You put
Hey,
them in
that's-
danger.
You put them
Absolutely.
in danger, yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Everybody in the
Yeah.
situation's in danger, the recipient as well as the
Yeah.
caregiver.
Right.
Exactly. And so it's a very complicated situation, and you're right, we
Yes.
do address Medicare and Medicaid because I didn't know anything about it. Here in California it's Medi-Cal, but we didn't know anything about it. It was like, why is it they threw my mom in hospice way before she needed to be in hospice, and so which is a thing they do in nursing homes because they can make the most money off of Medicare and do the least work.
Yeah.
So they'll just give them like pain medication and let everything else go, to hell, basically. And so and these are all the things that we have to deal with as caregivers. We don't really know. So so as far and it's going back to what you guys do as therapists. I mean, and in a nursing home situation, you get paid through Medicare, right?
Yeah.
Right.
And
right.
so, and as the caregiver to somebody who's in a long-term facility, you need to know that, if it's a good facility, they're going to say absolutely, and they're going to call in therapists. If it's not, they're going to say they're not going to do it because it's going to cut out of their from their bottom line.
Yeah.
So you need to push on that. And so tell us about what. So you have let's go back to you and talk about all the amazing resources that you have on YouTube, on your YouTube channel, because you have thousands of videos?
We have hundreds. We have hundreds of videos and products.
Okay.
Yeah. So Cindy and I started our YouTube channel in 2015. We were coming home from my house for Christmas, and we thought, wouldn't it? We were both in home health at the time. Wouldn't it be interesting if you get the same questions frequently, especially when it comes to physical therapy? Wouldn't it be helpful if we could make these little short videos? We had just started taking laptops into the patients' homes. And wouldn't it be cool if we could set them up with a video to show them, answer their question, count it as caregiver education, patient education, and then we could do our paperwork so we wouldn't have to take it home with us. We could actually get it done in the patient's house. Wouldn't that be cool? So we started making these videos in one of our spare bedrooms in our house in Southern Illinois. And we put them out on YouTube, and we started getting some traction in 2018. And so we thought, what? Let's make these how-to videos. Let's put them on a website, and let's make a platform to kind of house them in, and that'll be our business. We'll do that. We'll do that for a living, and it'll be a subscription model. So we did that in January 2020, we went live, and in March of 2020, Illinois was shut down for quarantine because of COVID.
Right.
So never start business during a quarantine. Or
Never
during a
do that.
pandemic. Don't ever do that. That's my first piece of advice. So we started, spending most of 2021 trying to figure out was it our business, was it COVID, was it both? And so we took all those videos that we had on YouTube and put the how-to videos, we call them, or the caregiver resource video, behind that subscription wall. And so our YouTube channel, we started getting companies that were sending us their products. And so we started making product review videos. I was telling Dawn early before we all hopped on here that, you could buy any of this stuff online, but just because you can buy it online doesn't mean you know how to use it safely. And as a matter of fact, it could increase your risk for injury of yourself or your loved one if you don't know how to use it safely. So I always like to tell our viewers that we don't sell the product, we just show you how to use it safely. So that's kind of what our YouTube channel turned into, was this product review channel. And now, we get these companies, usually they're small businesses that, like us, and they just say, hey, I was a caregiver once and I found this device helped me and I tweaked it a little bit and now I'm an entrepreneur. Isn't that cool? And so then we make these videos for them and put it on our YouTube channel. We put it on all our social media. Susie, Cindy, and I are on TikTok too. So I always tell our viewers we're two old ladies on TikTok.
I know you are. I follow you.
Awesome.
I follow you everywhere. Don't you know I'm like a stalker? I love these women.
So then we put those out there and we just show people how to use it. We just raise people's awareness that these products are out there, and that it could help your caregiving journey. It could help you age safely in place. It could help you be in your own home safely. Even though all the products aren't for everybody at least deserves options.
Right.
And so you don't know what you don't know, and that's where we come in.
That's right.
I
That,
love
they like I was telling you, my mother is now in assisted living, and there's things she cannot stand up on her own.
Right.
She can't do. There's incontinence, all that stuff. But anytime Susie will say, "Oh, you should get her this," and she's like, "No, it's too expensive. I don't want to do that." So this can help not only the person who will, the caregiver,
Right.
but to show it to the person who who would be using it and say, look how easy this is.
Right.
And
Yeah.
and if you guys give it 2 thumbs up or whatever your
Yeah.
ratings
That's
are,
right.
it instills confidence that it's
Right.
that it's a good and safe thing. So it
Right.
really is helpful to the caregiver
Yeah.
to,
Right.
to bridge that communication gap and hopefully get them to use these things.
I think so
Yeah.
too. I think that's a great point. Like Don's mom, like he was saying, was having difficulty getting up off the chair, and so for her to somehow, by the grace of God,
Miracle.
somebody was moving out and just left one of those lift chairs that lift
Nice.
you up.
Brand
and
new.
Brand
Brand
new.
new.
Wow.
And
That's
they said,
awesome.
Mickey, do you want it? And she got it.
That's
so,
awesome.
you know,
now
lo
she
and
can at
behold.
least do that.
Yes, that's
That's
awesome.
That's
and she
huge.
loves it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's
Yeah.
huge, you know,
Yeah.
Dawn, because it might not be the way she used to stand up, but she still, that chair helps her, and it helps her maintain her functional independence. We all
right.
can't just hop out of bed like we
Yeah.
did when we were 20, you know,
Right.
but it doesn't mean we're not independent anymore. It just looks a little bit different. Independence looks a little bit different, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Right. You know,
yeah,
Don,
and it's so much safer for her too. Yeah, go ahead.
oh, I was just going to say you had mentioned incontinence, and I just want to make sure that the viewers know also. You know, we don't just pick up a product, look at it, and say, oh yeah, you know, this we like this or whatever. We trial everything that we
Everything.
get, and when I say we trial it, I am including the Cine products, which are
Incontinence.
incontinence products. We did trial those.
Yep.
We trialed
You
them
guys are the
overnight
best.
during exercise.
Right on.
You know, we're not going to put out something with our seal of approval
Yep.
that we haven't actually tried.
Yep.
And so that's
That was
why
my next question. How do
That's
you
amazing.
test everything? I was going to
Oh,
say,
yeah.
how do you test the functionality and the quality and the necessity?
yeah.
Yep,
And how
yep.
do you determine the necessity of something? Like, how do you like, you know, I'm wondering about
Yeah.
that.
Right. I think that all goes back to what Christina said is not every product is for everyone,
Yeah.
but everyone needs at least needs to have a choice.
Yeah.
Or an option. And you know, a lot of these, we're really assessing these from a therapy
Yes.
point of view, from our history of seeing all types of people with all types of diagnoses. You know, we can't drill down to every little specific thing, but what we're trying to do is bring out the general qualities of each product
Yes.
and how and who it might work for. And you know, and again, it may not work for everybody, but there's so many things out there, and there's so many things that people don't know. But there's so many things that we don't
Yeah.
know about.
Yeah.
And when people bring situations up, we do research all the time on different products, and there are so many brilliant people, and a lot of the brilliant people are caregivers that have been
Yeah.
thrown into the situation
Yep.
and have had to come up with some resolution for themselves and their loved one to make things easier.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. So we try to keep
Absolutely.
our videos
Yeah.
nice and short, and it's just kind of the general idea. This is what it is. This is what it was meant for. Here's some things that we could see. Here are some diagnoses that might benefit from that, and then just keep it short. And then we just put it out there, and we get so many comments that people say, "Oh, I used it for this or that or the other." I'm just like, brilliant. That is
Yeah.
brilliant.
It's more, it's more about a community,
Yeah.
about a community kind of sharing ideas.
Yeah.
You know, we do get a lot of great ideas from
Yeah.
our followers.
from
So
viewers. Yep.
That's so great.
And also
I-
review the reviews from the people that they saw it, they based on your recommendation, now they've tried it,
Yeah,
and
right.
if they are also coming and say yes, this absolutely does work,
Yep.
or maybe not so much, and you then it's a learning for, like you say, for a whole community.
Yeah, absolutely. And we get those, Susie, we get trolls on our stuff as well. Because
Do
what we
you?
do, oh yeah. What we do, what we all do here, it's not sexy. I mean, it's not like, we're not going to go viral because,
Right.
it's talking about things that people don't like to talk about sometimes, And so
Yeah.
we're never going to go viral, but it's the right thing to do, So we get people that come out there and the trolls show up and they, I'm here for the comments, and so they throw their stuff in, and I usually put on my little mom voice and we'll say, I don't think your mom would find that very, didn't your mom teach you better? They're like, oh, I didn't know. I'm so sorry. Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah. I love that. I've had people say, shame on you. And I go, shame on you. You
Yeah.
don't even know my story. Like,
That's
how
exactly
can you say
right.
that?
Exactly
Yeah.
right.
Right.
Trolls.
People are very judgy. It's like, I call it like the angry driver. They're very brave behind their closed window, right?
Right.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
exactly
but you would
right.
never say those things if you weren't in your car.
Right.
But
But there's a very
Absolutely.
there's an important aspect, because I know my mom often says, I can't afford that. I
Yes.
don't want to spend the money on that.
Yep.
But there's options for that, isn't there?
There are, yeah. On our website, aecorner.com, on our resource page, we have 3 resources that every caregiver needs to know about. One of them is a national directory for a lending closet. So a lending closet is usually a not-for-profit organization that collects gently used equipment. They refurbish it and they give it out. They either loan it out for a small fee or no fee to residents in their community. And then when they're done with it, they bring it back. So those are called lending closets. And then there's the other one we recommend is every state has an assistive technology program. Ours in Illinois, Cindy and I work part-time for our assistive technology program. It's in the capital. It's in Springfield, Illinois. And what they do, they have a reuse program as well. They also have a demonstration center where Illinois residents can come in, they can touch the stuff, they can look at the equipment, they can ask questions about it, and then they have a device loan program where they can actually borrow it for 6 weeks and use it for free, see if it fits in with their lifestyle. With speech therapy, I use that a lot because I might have a patient that was recovering from a stroke, and so I would get one of those augmentative and alternative communication boards, which is just a computer with symbols on it, and it might speak for them. Well, they might not want to learn that, or maybe it was too difficult, and so I would borrow it, see if it fit their situation, if it didn't fit their lifestyle, and then we sent it back, and they were out no money. Sometimes those things are expensive.
Right.
So the AT program, we have a directory on our website for that, and then also for your area agency on aging, to find out who your local area agency on aging is. If you don't know who your AAA is, you need to find out and go to that elder care locator, which is an area agency on aging locator. Find out who yours is. If you have an aging loved one, get them involved in your AAA, because there are lots of programs that they might qualify for. Or maybe they don't qualify for it financially, but maybe there are community programs that they might qualify for, that they could come, help combat social isolation. So
Right.
I would highly recommend everybody find out who your 3 local organizations are, and get involved with them.
Right.
Right.
I mean, you have you have on your website a thing that you can resource called the Home Safety Quick Start Guide, Your Path
Correct.
to Safer Caregiving, that
Yes.
you can download.
That's
Right.
and that's
so
ours.
that is, can you talk about that? Like
Sure.
what's the nuts, the Reader's Digest of that?
Yeah.
Yes. So one thing that we really like to promote is being prepared, as far as, especially when you have a loved one in the hospital or a skilled nursing facility and they are getting ready to come home, because you want your house to be prepared. So with that quick start guide, we want you to look at, especially if it's a rushed situation, which a lot of times it is, we want you to look at the top 3 areas that usually cause problems. That is the toilet height. Usually the toilet height is too low, or there's not a good push-off area. Grabbing a hold of the toilet paper roll is not a good place to push off of with our hands,
No.
or the towel bar. We also are looking at the bed height. Looking at the bed height. Nowadays, the beds are too high. People can't get into them. And, it's miserable when you get home and you can't get into your own bed. And then your comfy chair. Everybody's got their comfy chair with their command central around the comfy chair. A lot of times that's going to be too low. If they've been in the hospital and they're a little bit weak, it's going to be too low. So those quick start guide kind of shows you or tells you a little bit about how are we going to work with those 3 areas to make sure those are okay for those first couple of nights back home, to make that transition a little bit easier.
Yeah.
And then
we have videos attached to them as well.
Yeah, and then inside our subscription on our website, we have a full-on home safety assessment that people can use. It's a downloadable PDF, and you can watch the videos and walk through your home and find out different areas of your home that may need some help as far as home safety goes.
Yep.
Incredible. It's so
Thank
That's
you.
great.
I'm just so
Yeah.
I'm so amazed by you guys. And so and in terms of what Dawn, just jumping up on what you said about the cost, aren't some of these kinds of rehabilitative like instruments or equipment, are they not covered by Medicare for a certain amount of time, or
Yeah,
is
some
that
of the
possible?
Some of the larger items are covered by Medicare. So you're talking about a walker, a hospital bed, a wheelchair. But again, it's all in the fine print. You've got to, if you've had a walker and you can't purchase another one within 5 years. Sometimes they will not pay for a walker and a wheelchair at the same time. So you need to pick the less of two evils is when you're trying to purchase one or borrowing one. So there's a lot of different fine print. Bedside commode, you have to be what they consider room bound. And if the doctor can't write that you are room bound, then they won't cover a bedside commode. And unfortunately,
good to know, you guys.
Yeah.
But you know who has them?
No.
Your lending closet
That's
has one that you could borrow.
Usually has some bedside commodes.
There you go. My God, that's such a great resource. Hey, what do you guys think of the WIC? I'm talking about that because we're trying to get Don's mom to, because when my mom, so I'll explain it. I'm going to just tell the listeners that when my mom came out of the hospital and they kept her on an internal Foley catheter for way too long, and I kept bitching about it and saying, "Are you sure? I don't think this is healthy. This can't be healthy." Long story short, I was told about the WIC, and then I actually saw commercials on it. Well, my mom ended up in the hospital hemorrhaging from a horrible infection from the Foley catheter. And that hospitalist, the doctor from the hospital, said, yeah, we need to take that out. They had to flush her bladder like 5 times and then get her onto a WIC. Well, I don't know, they were very resistant to doing that at the nursing home. I don't know why, whether it was the expense or whatever it was. But it seems like such a great solution because it's non-invasive. It does the job. I'd like to do
they
a
wouldn't.
video.
They said no. They absolutely said
Yeah,
no. We will not do that. Yeah.
I'm wondering if it has to do with the reoccurring expense of the replacements.
Yeah.
I would bet that's the
Probably.
reason.
Yeah, because it can be kind of expensive.
Yeah, I would bet that's the reason.
Can't-
Yeah.
But it is an amazing
And
product.
Medicare didn't cover that. Yeah.
Isn't it?
Yes.
Yes,
yeah,
it is.
Just so you guys know, it's basically like it's so non-invasive. If someone has incontinence, especially if they're trying to heal a wound, so you want to keep them dry, or even anybody like Don's mom who, at night it's bad. Her incontinence is bad at night, and so and it was waking her up, and I was telling her about this thing that just, as the name is, it wicks the moisture away.
Moisture.
Yeah, it just wicks it away, and it's benign. It seems like such an amazing product.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Well, we need to get a hold of one of those.
I know we need to do it.
It's another trial.
We'll try that out.
We will try that out.
Yeah, no, we've heard great things about them, but yeah, WIC, if you're listening,
that's right.
send us a sample. We'll do a
I'm
product.
telling you, I will. Yes, WIC, you need to do this.
Yes.
I cannot.
Yeah.
Yeah, you guys need to do this, and when you do it, I will post it.
Okay.
It's all over the place because it is a saver, and
Yeah.
my mom wouldn't have been in so much pain. And
Yes.
really, nobody wants to have a catheter in them unless they were like in a coma. Like
Right.
you
You
don't
didn't
need
know.
that. There's
Right.
am I right? There's all
Oh,
other
yeah.
ways.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, stop and think about it. We were just talking about, forgetting how to swallow. Now, if you've got a catheter in, what just automatically pulls the urine out, what's the point in having any of the pelvic floor musculature then?
Right.
I mean,
You
it forgets
atrophy.
it forgets what it's supposed to do too, which just adds insult to injury.
Right. Right.
Thank you. Thank you. Oh my God. Well, did we miss anything? I just love you guys so much.
thank you
I just
very
want to
much.
just cheerlead you. No, I really do. And I mean that. Like what you're
Appreciate it.
doing for the community is just one of the most it's so valuable. What you're
Thank you.
doing is such a valuable service.
Thank you.
I want to see you on The View. The
Awesome.
View needs to have you on.
I love it.
And like
Yep.
Good Morning America and
Yep.
all these places
We'd love
because you are the real deal. Like I said before,
Thank
you are not stopping anytime soon.
No.
And you're actually in the trenches working with people. You get it. You know what people need. You're not just you're not just the liaison between the people that are making these products and the people that are buying these products. You actually using them.
That's right.
Absolutely.
And so that you can't get better, testimony than that.
Thank you.
Right?
Thank you. We really, we
Right,
really
Dawn?
appreciate that.
Honestly. Yeah, I just love you. So, anything we left out that you'd like to say?
Just one more time telling about our website, aecorner.com. That's where our caregiver resource library you could find. You could join it. It's over 200 videos in the subscription library itself. It's $10 a month. You can cancel at any time when your caregiving journey ends or you're tired of learning. So, we would encourage people to go there.
$10 is nothing. $10 in terms of your time and everything else. It's like that's a bargain.
Yeah.
And I'm not just saying that. It is a bargain. Like I would have paid for that tenfold. Like I would have paid, much more than that for that service. So that's incredible. Sign up if you haven't done it, because you will need it. I promise you will need this. And can people write you and email you or whatever and just say, hey, there's a product out there that they want my mom or dad to use, or my husband. What do you think? Would you check it out? Are those things that they can do?
Yes. Absolutely, yeah. Right. We get that a lot on our social media channels. People will say, hey, they'll mention us in it, and they'll say, hey, check this out, kind of thing, which is a great resource for us to be able to, and then we could reach out to that company and they will
see what we can do.
Yeah, send us a sample. Yeah.
Oh, that's so fabulous.
Yeah.
Oh, that's wonderful. So take advantage of that too, because where else can you get that done? Like. There were so many times that I wanted to ask somebody, well, is this right? Is this good? And you really need a source that you can trust. That I can tell you that is the truth. And
Thank you.
It's far and few between. So
thank you. We appreciate it.
I love you, and I know that which always harkens us back to the title of this podcast, Dawn. Why?
It does. Well, that's because love is powerful, love is contagious, and love conquers all. So we thank everybody for watching and listening today. Please like, subscribe, do all those things and get the word out.
And you can find all the information of these great ladies, of Christina and Cindy,
in the show notes.
And the show notes, and all where you can find them and badger them and stalk them like I do, and share them with everybody. You'll be doing a mitzvah, as they say in French. So,
that's it.
Yeah, I just
Yiddish French.
It's a Yiddish French. You'll be doing a blessing for everybody. All right. Well, take care and follow us.
We'll see you next time.
And we love you all. Bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.